just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Hungry. Do you find that you perform better with a full stomach or with something in it, or what does that look like for you?
I think it depends. Like most of my answers, right? It's been in a good place where like I've trained myself to have that metabolic flexibility, so I can go into the fat burning a bit easier and be okay. But also, I still get hungry. I remember how Joe Rogan explained that once. Right, well, focusing on fat burning, she's like, "I'm hungry, but it's not the same. Just the hunger's there, but it feels like it's in a different room." I just like the way he described that. Yeah, I think it's more to do with just had a lot of stuff going on today, and that's great and all good stuff. But I just wanted to have a few minutes to eat some food, and I haven't really eaten since like 8 o'clock this morning.
Under that umbrella, I'm wondering what you might say to somebody, wink, wink, aka me, that I pay very little attention to my diet because I work out, go to the gym or swim enough to where that's almost like my permission. Like I'll eat what I want and I'll worry about it another time. I'm at the point where I want like something's got to give, and I'm wondering what a good like incremental step is that I can take to like a super novice, dieteer, somebody who wants to get into what would you say? Is it what's the word I'm looking for? Like the gaps between I'm eating? Like I've heard that strategy before where I should have like smaller meals more often throughout the day. Do you like the intermittent fasting? Should I just focus on like getting vegetables or something healthier in my diet like more consistently? What's like a good little tidbit that I can just get started with that?
What when you say something's got to give, what do you mean by that?
Like I want something to change. I've noticed and been more in tune with, regardless of how much I exercise, that I have this untapped potential with my diet. Like I don't really pay attention to it. So I know it's like a knob that it's at a 0 and I can turn it up to like a 2 and get some results. I'm just wondering like what version of the 2 could I turn it to?
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm talking to the tax cut guy this week. It's like, well, we can do this thing where we can like get a little bit of payoff there, or if we pay the kids through there, then we can take that as a write-off. And it's like it's all bits and pieces around the edges. It's just like the biggest thing is basically have big enough for you have enough space in your retirement plan to put all that money in. So you haven't got to pay that tax now. You put it straight into your retirement plan. It's like do that. That's the biggest thing. And so when it comes to health, the biggest thing is food. Because you can't exercise out a bad diet. I mean, you work out a lot, right? You're playing a ton of hockey, and then you're always doing something, right? So that gives you a certain level to play with. But the food is the biggest leverage point. You can't see my Arnold Schwarzenegger picture from here, but he famously said that abs made in the kitchen, right? 80% of success in 100% out of 100% success in bodybuilding, 80% is what you eat, 20% is your rest, and 10% your training. And so think about that. Wow. I mean, that's bodybuilding specifically, but what you put in your body is what you are, right? And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest leverage point for sure. And I remember working once with some guy who like could eat. He was telling me like someone who he worked with, like he had a pizza. He's like, I couldn't have a pizza for lunch. I'd be like all the rest of the day, I'd feel like so terrible. I'd be like, it's like all the gluten or something. And so this guy can just get away with it. You know what? It's like reminding me. I said to him, it's like, well, I'd rather be where you are, because although he's getting away with it now, he's just kicking the can down the end. That's down the hall, right? Down the road, whatever the expression is. And so ultimately, to come back and get him somewhere along the line, I'd rather have the acute pains. We're back to the acute versus the chronic pain. So, Coach, where you are, right, it seems like you can get away with things. and that maybe not is always a good thing because like you haven't been as focused on, you haven't needed to, right? But
Right.
super easy way for me to think about it is that through my iterations of training over the years, it was training first for bodybuilding, which meant carbs and protein. Who cares about vegetables? Don't eat any shit, right? Like no fat. Like it's just, and so it was a lot of tuna, chicken and rice, like so lean stuff. And then it's moved around so much time. But I would say like the approach that I talked about recently was just focus on protein. Think about what actual foods there are. If we and so think about you don't really need carbohydrates. I don't really think so. So I'd focus on not worrying about, not even thinking about carbohydrates. Just move towards protein. If you're every given meal you're eating primarily protein, like the ancillary of the carbs will come around the outside of it as well. And then sticking within a fasting like a intermittent fasting window. Have you used the have you seen the app called Zero before?
I
Zero.
don't think so. Mm-mm.
There's a free app called there's a free part of it where you can track your fasting. You can set it up so when you start eating for the day, when you stop eating for the day. And
Eh,
again, yeah,
Is that what you recommend? 16-8, like the intermittent fast? I've done that before, and I've gotten pretty used to that routine. I'm just not in it right now. Is that what you'd recommend?
yeah, but at very least, just to notice what you're doing. That's what I was going to
Mm.
say, right? Like rather than being a strict 16-8, what for me is just the awareness of when I stop eating for a day to the day when I
Mm.
start again, because it tends to make a big difference. And then I just focus on trying to get like 40 grams of protein each meal. So those
Sounds like a
simple rules
lot.
would be 40 grams of protein each meal. How much do you weigh, Coach?
175 ish.
Okay. So let's say you mean between one and a half let's say one and a half grams of protein per pound. So like 250, 270 grams of protein, something like that. Is that right?
That should be my daily intake. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. In
Okay.
fact, maybe I got some numbers wrong. So maybe think about getting towards 200 grams of protein a day. You probably don't need to hit 200 grams of protein a day, but if you can think about 200 grams as a target, it's pretty good.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll think about that. I think it's more about the other garbage I eat in between, but I kind of like this. Or are you saying that like that's how I could conquer that is just focusing on something that I can focus on, and the rest kind of falls away?
Yeah, exactly. You're in a position where you can forget about the other stuff
Mm.
because it's not like you're trying to like lose a ton of weight. So just focus on like eating the protein, and then you said the other stuff you won't be hungry for it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Those cravings will start to go away. It's like it's like having a bunch of chocolate in the fridge, right? If you go down there and it's there, like, what are you going to
Eat it.
do? Like if I was like I remember being younger, being somewhere with my mum, and she's like, "Do you want to buy that?" Like, I look at it, oh, that like biscuit or a chocolate bar. That's cool. You want me to get it for you? It's like, no, I don't want it because I'll only eat it. Like I don't want to eat it. Like I don't want to do it. You can buy it. I don't want to actually eat it. I mean, yeah, I want to, but I don't really want to.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's not in the house, I won't miss it. Don't buy it. Don't have
Right.
the temptation be there.
Yeah. Well, you're living on your own, so it's easy for you, man. Come on, easy money.
Yeah. I'm the buyer. Yeah.
Right. You don't open the fridge and go, "Oh, how did that get there?" Right.
All right. I have a challenge for you.
Uh oh.
Might we make our diet conversation that we just had an analogy for business? You kind of mentioned those percentages. What was it, 70, 20, 10? And what
80,
was it
20,
again?
10. No,
80, 20, 10 is more than 100, coach.
no, yeah. Maybe that's another reason why I need to eat 70, 20, 10. Thank you for correcting me because I did that wrong earlier as well.
All right. And what were the percentages? 70 was diet, 10 was fitness. And what was the other?
70 is diet, 20% is rest, 10% is training.
Ooh, maybe we keep rest if we translate it over to the business principle.
Yeah,
So then
which is the thing I've been banging on about.
what would 70 and 10 be in business principles? Like what's the biggest chunk? If diet is the biggest chunk to being in shape and being healthy, what's the biggest chunk for business being healthy?
Well, mine goes to really what we've been talking about recently around like 70% is my max fill line. I need that other 30% to have the reflection and make sure that the 70% is the right 70%. But even that feels too much for in that space. So I suppose by the natural conversion of it, that would be the time that you're spending actually working in your business or in your life, just like doing the things like showing up for calls, creating value would be for our business. But certainly no more than that. And actually putting it that way makes it even more stark that there's that difference. How
Hmm.
does it feel for you?
Yeah, I guess I just had another thought to go deeper with that 70%. So maybe we take the same percentages of the working in your business. What's the 70, 20, 10 of that?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's important as well, right? Yeah. It's like 80-20 and 80-20 rule, but and then the 80-20 rule one once you've done the first level of it, because you can go deeper and deeper. All right. So of of the 30% you've got, so let's say the 70% is out of like it's just keeping the lights on. You've got 30%, and we're saying we're splitting that 30% up into 20, 70, 20, and 10. Right.
Mhm.
This is good.
Yeah, I might say either the 20 or the 10 would be like content consumption, like maybe continuing education or videos that you're watching or something, to put into to practice your subconscious neural connections. What are you feeding yourself? Or maybe that doesn't apply if we're talking about actual connections that we're making in the business. I would say the 70 is actually, I don't know, maybe it's like a coaching prospecting type thing. 70% is the actual delivery, 20% is prospecting, 10% is something else.
Yeah, but you make a good point. Like, it's content consumption, or maybe under the bigger umbrella of education. What like the bigger lifts of putting new things into your mind. But then yet, like, okay, so that's working on the continual process of your business. So lead generation, and then that which is repeatable. And you might even say that that should just be part of the 70%, maybe. But I guess the other part then missing for me is then building systems, building the ability to play again. Because if you've got that 30% that's left, and it's going on, it's going on something, you need to be able to buy the next 30% from that 30%.
Mm. That's where I want to go deeper on. I think that makes the most, that gets me most excited talking about systems and the power of systems because you can do anything by showing up and leaning on your ability, your resources, and getting value out of something. But maybe talk to uh, the the gain of having systems. What does that look like for you in your business? And then why is that something that we should think more about?
Yeah, I think it's huge to think about the systems. I was thinking about the hangar analogy. Like if you've got this big aircraft hangar and you park the airplane, the big airplane in there, or you maybe it's not an airplane, maybe it's I got it. It's a tent, right? Like you've got this big tent in this place. You've got space. And that tent is really valuable. It's like an idea or a concept, something that you can use. But when it's in there, you can't use the space for anything else. So the work is to create a way of like dismantling the tent in a way where you know it goes together, and then having a way at the back of that hangar, that space, uh, to put it in a place where you can file it, but you can get to it later. So you can dismantle it quickly, put it away, know where it is, know what it takes to put it back up and use it, but also have the space for the next thing to come in. That's the repeatable system. It's like, what do I need to put up today? And then perhaps there's hangers at the back that just have ones working in there over themselves over and over and over anyway. But the system is something where essentially anything that's repeatable can have a system that gets created around it.
Mm.
And so the analogy I've been using for clients just this week that popped up was a baseball analogy. Did I think about this already?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
So if you're like the star player, you're hitting things out of the park. That's your role. You don't also want to be in charge of making sure that there's enough peanuts to go around, that everyone's got the right seat allocation, that the floodlights are coming at the right time. There's enough beer in that damn place. We check what the rain is like. Everyone's got the right equipment. So like, imagine they had to deal with all that stuff as well. Even if you had other people that were doing some of the work for you, but you still had to know that those things were okay. You were the final part, but then you still had to step up and like knock the ball out of the park. You wouldn't do it. You just got to remove everything so that you can do the thing that only you're best at.
Mm.
So the systems are a way of knowing that all those things are really important, but you can't move on to doing your best work if you're still having to do some of the other work. So utilizing systems, technology, and people is what is always the game is about. Okay, because once you're full up forever. It's not like, oh, until I've got more space. But there's always going to be something else that goes into it. And I think obviously there's value in calling time out and having a sabbatical or like a mini retirement or something like that to reset. But ultimately, once you get to a certain place, I think there's always going to be more things that come in. And so we want to always have enough space that it makes it continuous as the way you might be. So it's always, well, if I go, I think I read somewhere recently, it's like an idea is useless if it doesn't come with a person to execute on it.
Mm.
When it comes to what, because there's no, oh, that's great, but like I'm not spending time on it. Someone else has to. So does it come with that person? But if it doesn't come with a person, then I've got even if I know I'm not going to do it, I've still got to find a person to do it. Oh, there's a lot there, Coach.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I wrote down one thing that might be my takeaway for today. And it's such a simple sentence that you said, but it made so much sense to me. Anything that's repeatable, you can systematize. So if you're thinking of, as I am in my business, something in your business that repeatedly comes up and maybe there's nuances and you spend effort and energy on those nuances and it's not in that realm of like home run hitting, something that you're the best at and you show up and perform, but it's something else. It's more of a distraction. Work on a system, find a way to, I guess the overall goal of a system is to not think about it as much or not have to think about it. When you systematize it, you know what the expectations are, you show up and it is that thing. It is whatever you systematize it to be. So I'm just kind of thinking about that for me, quite simply, something that I'd like to resolve is sometimes when I get to the end of my day, I have 3, 4, 5 tasks and I'm faced with this challenge. I don't have any other commitments. I don't have to be on Zoom anymore or connect with any other clients, but I have to get these things done. And sometimes I just need to walk away. But then I'll get to 7 o'clock at night and they're still not done. So I'm just thinking of a system that I can implement to address those things because it keeps coming up. It's a repeatable thing that I keep having to deal with and spend mental energy on, and how am I going to handle this? So I'm just wondering what that might be for me, and I'm going to think about that a little bit more and actually implement some sort of system to accommodate those things.
Perhaps this is an example of like when there's more constraints, it makes it easier. But for me, I know that when I have to go and relieve the nanny, I'm done. I'm done for the day because then I get into the kids and the dinner and everything to put to bed, and then it ends up to being like 8:30. There is exceptions to that where I know that there's something very specific that I want to have committed to. I can come back at that point, but that's very rare. I don't want it to be. So it's like when it's closed, it's done, it's off. So either it's available to do in the time that I've got, or if it's not, it then goes to the next available part in the time that I've got.
Yeah.
And then so that has an opening time in the morning as well. And so that might be helpful to think about for you. All right, so my takeaway is just around the structure, the systems. There still has to be some flexibility in the system itself. I think I remember this from Tim Ferriss's 4 hour work week, when he first had virtual assistants to handle queries from his clients. He gave some very specific responses to requests, but there's lots of nuance to those. And so it was like it still found lots of things coming to him because it didn't fit into the 5 scenarios that he'd laid out. It's like kind of this, kind of that, but not really. So it come back to him. But what he did was allow his assistants to say, if it's a problem that costs less than $100 to fix, make the decision and fix it.
Mm.
And that enabled 90% of them to go away.
Wow.
So you're not looking for everything. Here's another example from a client this week. His goal is to remove email from his life. They having one of his assistants just go through his email and filter the things into one inbox that says for him to read, and then the other inbox for him to action. And so just that makes it like he's still got to go through and look at the emails, but it's so much less impactful for him, and he can batch it much more efficiently.
I want to take a new takeaway. I love that. Read and action. That's amazing. It's so simple. How come I didn't think of that? That's great.
All right,
Coach, thank you. I like where we started with diet and eventually got into business and got into some cool takeaways. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Bingo, bango.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.